Welcome back to Sprague Homestead. So today we're with my dear friend Heather Keller from Rock Hill Rabbitry, and she is going to tell us all about the silver fox rabbit.
All right, so the silver fox are a great homesteader type rabbit. They are a large commercial rabbit. They were developed in 1929 by Walter Garland out of Ohio. They're one of the very few 100% American developed rabbits. They are lucky enough to have fallen off of the Livestock Conservancy's rare breed list due to their popularity amongst homesteaders and breeders alike. So they make a great, just overall beginner rabbit because of their docile nature, their great mothering abilities, and their hardiness to diseases and other ailments. The wonderful thing about these guys is they handle extremely cold temperatures very well. Their heavy bone and their standing fur are thick, and it protects them from cold weathers. The silvering should be even overall. Currently, the only variety accepted is black, although they do come in blue, chocolate, white, and the ever controversial broken. They're a good rabbit for the homestead because they dress out really nice for just your average general meat rabbit. They're very, very hardy rabbits. They get fat off of almost nothing. They have good thrift for them, and their average litter size ranges usually between 6 and sometimes 12, and they are heavy, heavy milkers, so they foster readily. They'll feed their babies, they'll feed your other babies, they'll feed a rock if you stick it in there. The thing about the silver fox is we need more exhibitors showing at ARBA shows to keep them off of the rare breed list. They're a wonderful, wonderful rabbit to have around, but having them so rare in some places that states haven't seen them for years, we need to really educate people about the wonders of the silver fox rabbit.
Okay, so since you butcher a lot of these,
Yes.
what would you say they're hitting by 8-10 weeks?
They're still a little bit under a traditional commercial fryer, like your basic New Zealands, your Satins, and your Californians. I would say at around 10 to 11 weeks, these guys should be very, very close to your 5-pound mark. The meat on them is really well put together. They're not a lean rabbit. They have a lot of fat. They can get over fat. So a lower protein feed for these guys is very recommended because they are thrifty rabbits. You know, those horses that keep well that just get fat off of air? That's the silver fox rabbit.
So is there much demand in the United States anymore for the pelts? I mean, I understand they were kind of developed as a backup to the silver fox itself, but is there much market? I know we're very anti-fur these days.
Unfortunately not. The pelts in their raw form aren't really as valuable as pelts in a finished product. Even then, it's still a pretty volatile market because of the animal rights activists and the anti-fur legislation that's happening all throughout the United States. So for the homesteader, though, they make a really good pelt. On the mature animal, the average pelt weight is probably between 3 and 4 pounds. So it's a heavy,
nice.
thick pelt. It's got great thermal properties. So it's mostly just the meat and livestock that is the most value for the silver fox right now.
Okay. Now, being a calmer breed, like I've seen these guys at shows, and they're just not as active as, say, your Americans or some of the others.
Yes.
What do you guys recommend for housing as far as cage sizes?
I like to start my large breed does that have brood with them. I like to start them on a 30 by 36.
Okay.
Bigger is always better, but up until they get to breeding age, they can be safely housed in a roughly 30 by 30 for individual juniors.
Okay. And good breeders, like taking first time, or are these guys a little finicky about breeding or breeding seasons at all?
It really depends. I haven't had any issues with my silver fox breeding, but again, because they are such easy keepers, they have a tendency for the does to overfat inside. So you're going to have to keep that protein and that fat down a little bit until they get to breeding age, and then I normally don't have any problem with them breeding at all. They're pretty ready breeders.
Now, some breeds, like in our Americans, we notice by about 4 years old, our bucks just really aren't breeding anymore. Do these guys kind of lengthen out as far as time, or do you see them breeding pretty much to the end?
I had a 6-year-old buck that was breeding does several times a week.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, they do really, really well as far as breeding age availability, the amount of time that you can breed your bucks in your does. So I would say that they're a little bit higher than average, but again, keeping those does from getting fat is going to keep them trim and nice and in production.
So do you see, there are challenges in every breed, of course.
Yes.
Like, we've got the problem in the Americans where people have crossed too many New Zealands in, so our fur is changing.
Yes.
Do you guys have kind of that same issue where because they've been rare, we've brought in stuff that maybe shouldn't have been brought in?
Yeah, that's a 50-50 depending on who you talk to. We have a strict camp of the heritage breeders where they want to keep the lines pure, they want to keep them just silver fox, but in the 1980s and 90s, there was 5 breeders total in the United States with less than 100 of these silver foxes. So there was some breeds that added in just because of the genetic pool that we need to expand. Right now, we have such a great number of them throughout the United States that unless you have really, really severe type problems, most people do not outcross these guys. But you do have the camp that is very competitive in the arbor world, the American Rabbit Breeders Association, where they want to improve the type to be on par with the bigger, heavy hitter commercial breeds like the New Zealand and the California.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Okay, so we know that they're kind of rare, so if people are interested and they cannot find these in their area, what do you recommend?
100% go to the National Silver Fox Rabbit Club website. There's a breeder directory. I am on the board of directors. I'm all up and down the West Coast, so if you're on the West Coast, hit me up, Rock Hill Rabbitry. Hitting up the local Facebook groups, that is going to be the best bet to connect, and then just come to shows like we are here today. You're going to find the breeders that maybe you've seen before, maybe breeders that haven't been to a show before, and someone will know somebody that has a silver fox.
Okay, and I guess the last thing I'll ask is, I know rabbit prices vary wildly, but especially for people that are trying to look at them maybe for meat or pelt animal, about what are they going? I know it varies wildly across the country, but do you have kind of a range of idea?
I do. I sell my meat breeders. They start at around $40 to $50. My show-ready animals that have won go up from there. As an example, my best of breed convention winner, Silver Fox, sold for only $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do the same thing in Americans. There's just not enough people, so I feel like in a lot of these rare breeds, we keep the prices low to try and get more people in.
To get more people.
Okay, well, I think that is all the questions I have. Anybody watching this, if you have other questions that we didn't cover, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I can always get a hold of Heather and be able to answer that for you. Thank you, Heather, for taking the time, and your beautiful doe for being so patient. And that's it this time from Sprague Homestead. We'll see you next time.